In this video, we will be discussing what is climate change, 3 major ways climate change affects the drinking water in Canada, Indigenous communities' drinking water under threat, an interview with Dr. Dickson-Anderson, and a summary. Climate change is an extremely important issue that plagues our society today. It is the long-term shift in temperature and weather patterns. Human activities are the main driver of climate change, such as the burning of fossil fuels. Climate change can have major impacts on all aspects of the environment.
There are 3 major ways climate change affects drinking water in Canada. First, flooding caused by climate change can negatively impact drinking water quality because excess amounts of water can transfer contaminating pollutants into freshwater waterways while overwhelming wastewater and storm systems. Second, rising sea levels can alter the quality of fresh drinking water by intensifying coastal river and bay salinity levels, resulting in the intrusion of salt water in coastal fresh groundwater sources. Third, less frequent precipitation due to climate change causes droughts. Drought circumstances harm drinking water quality and availability, as when freshwater resources decrease in volume, the accumulation of freshwater-borne contaminants increases. In particular, the 3 ways threaten drinking water quality and accessibility for Indigenous communities. Waterborne diseases are more frequent within Indigenous communities compared to the average frequency in Canada, and 30% of Indigenous community water systems are labeled high risk. Hence, there is a significant knowledge gap regarding the impacts of climate change on drinking water in Indigenous communities.
Hello, everyone. My name is Randil Vithanage. I'm a 4th-year honors life science student studying at McMaster, and today I'm here with my expert, Dr. Dickson-Anderson, and we'll be discussing the impacts of climate change on drinking water in Indigenous communities. So if you wouldn't mind, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. I'm Sarah Dickson-Anderson, and I'm a professor in civil engineering at McMaster University. My research really focuses on water security for small, rural, remote, and marginalized communities. And I use a transdisciplinary lens to look at these issues of water security.
All right. Could you share your perspective on how climate change is impacting the drinking water sources in Indigenous communities?
Sure. So climate change is absolutely having an impact. One of the things that we're seeing is, changes in locations where water is. So we've got droughts in some places and we're having floods in other places. And the other thing is temperature. So if you think of, for example, a forest fire, maybe there's been a drought, maybe temperatures are higher, so things are dry, you just need a lightning strike or something. And so forest fires are happening more frequently and at larger scales. This past summer, I think, was the largest forest fire, or the worst summer most area burned in Canadian history. So what happens after a forest fire is you get a lot of solid material running off from the land into surface waters. That runoff contains things like carbon, and carbon that has been altered by the fire due to high temperatures. So, think any burned plant material. So land disturbances from things like forest fires are one thing. Another big challenge is we are having harmful algal blooms happen in places where we hadn't seen them before, and they're also much more intense. So a harmful algal bloom can release toxins into the surface water. And again, you need a specific treatment process to be able to remove those toxins so that it's drinkable.
Yeah. So you mentioned forest fires, floods, droughts, and algal blooms. What makes environmental degradation caused by climate change in Indigenous communities unique and different than observed in other communities like West Hill, where McMaster is located?
So I would say there's a lot of challenges. one of the big challenges is resources, right? So any small, rural, remote, or marginalized community doesn't have the same access to the same resources that a city like Hamilton does, right? The tax base is different, and Indigenous communities in particular, the funding models are also different. Most of their money is federal. So there's, a few things. But another issue is traditionally, Indigenous communities have not had the same voice at the tables when, doing things like source water protection planning. And so, that's a challenge because everybody wants to protect their source waters. And if you're left out of the discussions, you don't even have the ability to do the things that you think you need to.
Yeah, I would love to just touch on that voice because I was reading a couple of your papers and you said current methods used to address the issue are based on science and engineering, but that often neglects a consultation with the indigenous communities and ignores their cultural perspective of being impacted. And you say that the solutions have to be rooted in culture. And I was wondering, how can indigenous knowledge and practice be effectively integrated into current water management strategies to enhance resilience of indigenous communities against the impacts of climate change?
That's a really good question, and not an easy one to answer really quickly. Our group's been doing some research where we have been working with a particular Indigenous community, collecting their, I guess, information on their culture, their belief, their knowledge system, their traditional knowledge, and trying to look at existing source water protection plans and seeing where they don't align, and then modifying those existing source water protection plans. But that's been hard. So I think collecting information and comparing and seeing where things don't align is a good starting point, but I don't think that's where it can end.
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to interview you. Your research is really inspiring and it's important for a deeper understanding of the issue. So thank you again.
Thanks very much for talking to me.
To summarize the video, we explained what is climate change and the 3 major ways climate change affects drinking water in Canada, in particular Indigenous communities' drinking water, which is discussed in greater detail with expert Dr. Dickson-Anderson. Thank you.